Well, another week goes by and it's another near miss for Jack Lisowski, who again breezed through the opening rounds of a tournament before losing his form at just the wrong time. Now, I don't intend to undermine what was a brilliant performance by Chris Wakeling in the semis, and I'll get around to him later in the video, but rather I want to emphasise how consistently close Jack has been in recent years to picking up a trophy before falling at the closing hurdles just when it looks like this week will finally be the one where he gets over the line. Now, last week was the 27th that Jack had reached a quarter-final of a ranking event in his career. And as you can see, he has reached a few other invitational quarterfinals too. And that is quite an insane number for a player who has never gone on to land a title. Indeed, no other player has that many quarterfinal appearances without winning a tournament. And perhaps to put this into even greater perspective, these are Luca Brisell's statistics. He's reached a career total of 16 ranking quarterfinals, 9 less than Jack, and he's gone on to convert 4 of those into titles. So look, what is the missing ingredient here for Jack? Like I mentioned, this is perhaps fairly harsh timing to make a video like this, considering all the credit really should go to Chris Wakeling, who played a very high standard to beat Jack in the semis. And look, he was well worth his win. But Jack's pot success dipped below 90% in that match for the first time in the entire tournament, and it happened just as a door was beginning to open for him. Now, of course, if he had won, he would have had to overcome Judd, who's the man in form, and we'll get to him in a minute. And obviously Judd's beaten him in 3 finals beforehand. But he will have had no doubt have been thinking that this was a missed opportunity, given how well he had played all week leading up to that match. And ultimately, it is just this final step that is missing for him. So often he shows us how good he is in tournaments, highlighting his unbelievable natural talent and demonstrating why he is one of the most enjoyable players to watch on the circuit. And then he has that bad match right when he could have done without it. Now, it would be wrong of me to say he crumbles at the business end of a tournament every single time he gets there. I mean, I remember very well his semi-final against Mark Allen at last season's UK Championship, where, to be honest, he couldn't have played much better. He was just pipped to the post by the eventual winner. But it is certainly a theme that he struggles to produce his very best at the business stage of tournaments. And look, that will be Peter Ebdom's biggest objective, I think, which is to try and get him into a place where his natural ability can shine through under most extreme pressure, which, look, is much easier for an armchair fan like me to say rather than do, but it is clearly the missing ingredient that he needs to overcome in order to win a title. Now, I've credited Jack's ability to bounce back from these disappointments before, and I have no doubt that he'll be reaching more quarterfinals, semi-finals very soon. And I really hope that he finds the way to get his hands on a title. I really do, because it would be a travesty for him not to. Especially when you feel like if he can win 1, that would be the catalyst to him winning 3, 4, 5 more in a very short space of time. He is that good. But time is on his side, and that's the biggest thing going for him. And I'm sure that he will get there, because boy, will that taste so sweet for him after all the near misses that he's had recently. But it is only right, really, that we focus on the player who is my player of the week, the man who ultimately was just far too strong for Jack in the semi-finals, and that is Chris Wakeling. Following on from Zhang Yanda's heroics a few weeks ago, Chris became the latest surprise package to reach a final this season. And despite having won a tournament, the snooker shootout, this is by far and away his best performance in a tournament of an actual length. And he got there by beating Murphy in addition to Jack as well. So, the semi-final performance was certainly no flash in the pan. His style of play doesn't really suit the stereotype of a player who would win the shootout. He is far more methodical than he is instinctive. But I have always been impressed with his composure. I remember pretty well his match against Judd at the Crucible some 5 years ago now, where he was a long way behind in that match, something like 8-3, 8-4, before forcing a decider, and he came very close to sealing a huge victory. He looks to me like someone who models his game around Selby, similar cue action and a pretty straight poker face. And look, there's certainly worse players to model yourself on if he does. But this was a huge week for him and will no doubt give him great confidence. And it's going to be interesting to see where his career goes on from here. But yet again, ultimately, last week belonged to one man, and that was Judd Trump. God, there's very little more that I can say about this man that I haven't said in my previous 2 videos. He's not riding the crest of a wave. This is more than that. This is again domination. 3 titles in a row. I think he's only the 5th player in history to do that. The records is Stephen Hendry, who won 5 tournaments in a row. And I mean, I wouldn't be betting against him doing it. He looks unbeatable. When he gets on top of a player early, he dominates them like he done in the final and several other matches in that tournament. And even when he's behind, he was 4-1 behind against Barry Hawkins in the semi-finals, and Barry Hawkins was playing really well. But he was so unfazed about it, so confident in his ability to turn it around, and that's exactly what he done. We are in the business end of a tournament now. The UK Championship is only a few weeks away. The Champion of Champions is coming up. In a couple of weeks, it's the International Championships, where he'll have the chance to go for a 4th straight ranking title. And look, even in addition to this, he reached the final of the 2nd ranking tournament of the season at the European Masters. His form's there, his game's there, his confidence is there. He's got a massive smile on his face. Everything is clicking for him right now. And look, at some point, the winning streak is going to end. Someone will beat him. But it's going to take a heck of a performance to do it. He doesn't look like a player that's going to get burnt out. Sometimes you see players go on, really huge runs of form. And then at some point, they're just mentally exhausted. There was absolutely none of that from Judd. He looks hungry to continue with this. And he's got this week off to celebrate, to recover. Then it's off to China for the International Championships. There's players in good form, Barry Hawkins, Mark Selby, O'Sullivan. But, yeah, it's a brave man to bid against him. And I've got no idea who's stopping him. I really don't. And yeah, that just about wraps up the video for this week. Do let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Firstly, Jack Lisowski, is he destined to be a nearly man, or is he finally going to win a title? Is that title going to come next week? Is it going to come this season? Let me know your thoughts. Judd Trump, who's stopping him? How many titles is he winning this season? And potentially more important question, 3 majors this season, the UK, the Masters, the World Championships. How many of those is he winning? I certainly would bet against him winning at least 1, starting with the UK Championship in a few weeks. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the International Championship next week. It's one of my favourite tournaments. I'm so happy that it's back in the calendar. Best of 11s from the beginning. That is my kind of tournament. Really looking forward to reviewing it. But until then, stay safe, and I'll see you then.